Listen only mode.
Well, hello, everyone. I want to ensure that you can actually see my slides and you can hear me this morning, this afternoon, and this evening for all of you that are joining in. Now, that's a number I like to see. So fantastic. Thank you for that. Well, again, welcome and welcome to all of you. We have such a diverse audience today with folks from Southeast Asia and Europe and even some folks that are up really late at night joining us. So I just want to thank you for taking the time, and I'm incredibly happy that you're joining us today. This is our first DASA deep dive webinar that we're doing since our global launch event back on April 13th. So we're really pleased to have the opportunity to speak with you again. So my name is Deborah Burton, and I'm the marketing manager for the DevOps Agile Skills Association, or as we like to call her, DASA. And again, it's my pleasure to be moderating our event today. Before I turn it over to our guest speaker, I know that many of you have heard about DASA. It's been amazing the amount of interest and energy and the number of organizations that have reached out to us in terms of becoming members. And just I cannot stress enough what the objective is for the DevOps Agile Skills Association. And we want to ensure that we set the stage in terms of letting everyone know that DASA is an open global initiative. And the idea here is that we develop competences that will benefit individuals, it will benefit teams, and it will benefit organizations. And we do this by trying to work together, not only with our Forerunner members, which we have more than almost 50 Forerunners now, but with members like yourself, people that have interest in the DevOps community, so that we can provide real thought leadership and practical guidance in terms of competence development. So that's our mission, that's our objective, that's what we want to do. And we are so pleased that you're here with us for this presentation. So I'd like to, before I actually turn it over to Frederick Shucken, our guest presenter today, I'd just like to introduce him. He, of course, is a managing consultant at Quint Wellington in Redwood. And what I love about Frederick is he's so passionate about helping customers to adopt disruptive thinking, as he calls it. And it also helps with creating high performance IT by embracing DevOps and lean IT principles. He is a really, really experienced IT guy with 20 plus years in the business. He loves helping business to develop DevOps methodologies and break out of that rigid traditional way of working, move to a more focused, lean, agile approaches, and work on creating high performing teams. He has a real strong business background and a real focus on people and a no nonsense approach. He's hard on results, but he's flexible on methods. And he's also a key member of our DASA editorial board and has been very active in helping to create the competence model and that we have shared with you, and that the DevOps principles that he'll be talking about today. So with that, Frederick, I will before I turn it over to you, I just want to launch a couple of polls because although we're going to be talking to the audience, I really want us to have a feel for who's joining us today so that we can be specific in the things that we're sharing. So the numbers are coming in. I just want to give it just another couple seconds because everyone is actively voting. I like that. Okay, I'm going to close the poll and share the results. So it looks like we don't have any gurus or experts joining us today, but we have folks that have experience and that know a bit about DevOps. And probably the reason they're here with us today is they want to learn some more. And then we have some folks that have no experience or no knowledge in terms of DevOps. So that's what that looks like. Let me go to the next poll. Oh, actually, I won't go to the next poll. Actually, I'm going to go back to the presentation and I'm going to turn it over to you, Frederick.
Yes, thank you, Deborah. And welcome to everybody joining this webinar. We're very happy that you joined us. And within the next 30 minutes, we're going to talk about the DevOps principles. And if you look at DASA and the way we set it up, we said to each other, well, DevOps is hard to define, right? I mean, DevOps isn't a thing, it's not a product, not a standard, it's not a framework, it certainly isn't a job title, although sometimes you read about the average salary of the DevOps engineer. But DevOps is about experience, about ideas, and the way I define it mostly is DevOps being a culture to create high-performance IT. And before I set up, I would like to ask you a question. Well, something to think about. It's not a poll question, but if you need to explain DevOps, either to a colleague or maybe a friend or somebody from your family, I mean, what do you tell them? If you're saying you're interested in DevOps, you're maybe working with DevOps, I mean, a quarter of you said, I have experience in DevOps. I mean, how do you explain DevOps to somebody else? Especially somebody who hasn't a lot of knowledge in the first place. And that's a challenge we had in DASA as well. And what we did is we came up with a set of principles. We did not choose to define DASA, and especially DevOps, because lots of people have tried to define DevOps, and most definitions are touching upon really relevant stuff, but it's real difficult to come up with a definition that captures the whole DevOps community, the cultural thinking that's behind it. So what we did, we came up with 6 principles. Principles about customer-centric action, about automation, about continuous improvement. What we're going to do is we're going to walk together through these principles, because these principles are really the underlying essence of what we try to achieve with DASA, with the skills and the knowledge areas and the whole curriculum and the training courses we're setting up. But before we dive into that, I've got one more poll question that I would like to ask to you. So Deborah, can you show us the next poll question?
Yes, I will, and I am going to launch the poll right now. And there we go. So if you would start with DevOps, what would be the first thing to address? Is it a cultural change? Is it building a continuous integration system? Is it implementing continuous improvement, making performance transparent, or automated testing? So the numbers are coming in.
And we got a lot of people with experience with DevOps, so
yeah, so it's great.
They can then tell from experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me share the results. Take a look at that, Frederick.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, 70%.
70%.
Cultural
change.
Wow. Fantastic. I'm going to hide the results and go back to the presentation. And there you go.
Okay, thank you, Deborah. So, thank you all for voting. 70% of all the people attending is saying it's about a cultural change, and that's excellent. And even 15% is about continuous improvement, and that's also excellent. And of course, whatever you choose as an answer, they are all right. But there is so much diversity in the way you can start. And we've been asking these questions within my home country, the Netherlands, to a lot of people, and the answers they're giving is very diverse. So, and that's basically a way of showing that DevOps is a very broad thing that has a lot of elements within. And with our 6 principles, we're really trying to focus on putting that all in a coherent, tight, integrated system. So if you look at the first principle, right, let's dive in. And the first principle is about customer-centric action. And I think if you look at cultural change and especially continuous improvement, and you look at the lean movement, then there is always customer at the center of all the things that we do, that we try to achieve, that we try to improve. And we need that. I mean, we see a lot of companies that have trouble with their digital transformation. And when you talk to the digital transformation lead, it might be a marketing director, then they talk about changing a lot of stuff. A lot of IT is involved, but they don't know much about DevOps. And DevOps, in our understanding from DASA's point of view, is really an enabler to survive digital disruption. And whatever company or business you're in a certain way, the digital transformation is going to happen and going to touch everybody. So that's why we think DevOps is really an important way of thinking to survive that. And to do customer-centric action, you need 2 things in our opinion. You need to be able to innovate, have small, quick innovations like the minimal viable product and the lean startup movement. And you need to be able to innovate and change your course of action, your strategy, if necessary. And to do that, it takes one thing, and that's courage. You need to be the kind of organization, the kind of business, the kind of individual who has the guts to do things differently. And that is a major element within DevOps. If you look at somebody like Gene Kim, one of the leading DevOps community members, and he is talking about the DevOps transformation. And we're not talking about the unicorns, we're not talking about the internet startups that are growing very quickly, but traditional companies with a rich history, well, maybe 100 years old. And it takes a lot of courage to implement, to move to a DevOps way of thinking and way of working. So that's the first principle. Now, if we move to the second principle, let me see if I can move the slide. Then we go to the product service thinking and the collaboration that is required to do so. Because if you focus on customer-centric elements, that also means you have to organize yourself the way you do your business more as a product company. That's like most startups do. So it's no internal focus on a waterfall process of development and a lot of overhead and a lot of corporate rules and bureaucracy. It's about collaboration. You need an engineering mindset, and you need to organize yourself focused on product and services to be able to build customer value. And that, of course, ties in with the first principle, customer-centric action. So you need to collaborate and create things with the end in mind, knowing what you're doing for your customer. And that automatically brings us to the third principle, and it's end-to-end responsibility. And this is a real important one, because if you focus on your customer and you create an engineering culture with a focus on products and services, then eventually you need people within your organization that have end-to-end responsibility for, let's say, an IT service. So it doesn't mean that you're responsible for the design or the specification or the development or even testing or running the service 24/7 from an operations point of view. No, you need to have people, preferably teams, with end-to-end responsibility for the whole life cycle of that product, of that IT services. And this is really a key element, and in my opinion, nowadays a lot of companies are struggling with it. I mean, they see the relevance to do this, but how do you organize this? what is required to get this done. And if you look at, for example, the DASA DevOps Fundamentals training course that's about to go live, then this is really one element where there is a lot of focus. I mean, what is required to make this work? And if you're working within a team in a business and you've got end-to-end responsibility as an engineer, as an IT professional, what does that mean for yourself? So if we look at end-to-end responsibility, we say live your accountability. I mean, you're responsible that you are delivering great value through the entire life cycle of a service. That's from the very first conception of the idea to eventually turning off the servers and looking back, hopefully, at a great run providing it. And we say performance support. And we put in to make sure that that bit of the life cycle where the service is done, it may be improved a little, but it still needs support. It needs to have great performance towards the end. And that's a real important step to address as well. But of course, the question is, how do you set up your organization? What is required from your architecture to do this? How can you make teams that can really live up to the end-to-end responsibility? And that brings us to the fourth principle. Because if you're going to organize your people in teams that can live up to their end-to-end responsibility, you need two things. You need autonomous teams, and you need teams with a diverse skill set, T-shaped profiles, complementary skills, that they are able to do all the work that is required within such an autonomous team. Because if you want to create value for your customers and you want to be able to innovate, then you need to be able to quickly put new things out there for your customers and get feedback real quickly so that you can improve. And 15% of you said, we're going to start with continuous improvement. And then you need these things I'm talking about. So you need to set up an autonomous team. That means that all the work that is required to create the value and provide it to your customers is, in essence, done within the team itself. I work a lot with more traditional companies. And when I work with a team, then normally when the team wants to get something done, they need about 5 to 15 other people or other teams to do steps, to take certain actions during a process to get their stuff out there to their customers. It could be from a testing point of view, it could be in solving incident and problems, it could be that they need to scale up vertically or horizontally in their infrastructure. And that means that a team is not autonomous. It will create waste, it will create waiting time, it will, and that's the problem, kill the feedback to the team. I mean, if you talk to developers that say, well, I've done my bit, but it takes about 3 months before it gets into production, into the hands of the customer, and it takes at least 1 month additional to get feedback whether or not I created the right stuff. I mean, that's not going to help you improve. And these are the kind of symptoms we need to break with DevOps. And again, that takes courage to do so. So you need to set up autonomous teams if you're going to do DevOps. And if you're able to do that, then you have to look into the team. I mean, what kind of work is the team going to do? And in what kind of volumes? What kind of people do you need? And what kind of skills and knowledge does the team need to have? Now, what we did within DASA is we set up 4 skills, tightly, of course, intertwined with, for example, the first principle of courage and also leadership, things like that, and 8 knowledge areas. And what we're saying is you need all of those within a autonomous product or DevOps team, if you will, a team working through DevOps principles, right? It doesn't mean that all the people within the team need to be able to do all of those things, but at least they need, to a certain extent, understand and have a basic knowledge of all the areas that we defined. And then, of course, you've got your real specialists within the team. And that is, I think, one of the big challenges we're taking up with DASA, to help and to aid people, teams and organizations to get this done. But even if you do, you still need to be able to create that autonomous team. You need to be able to take your IT architecture and your IT infrastructure and maybe set out a path of making changes to create, from a technical point of view, the ability to make autonomous teams. And that, of course, is also a big topic within our DevOps training courses, especially within the fundamentals. We, I think, are putting up a good foundation for this. So we've got 4 principles done. So let me move on to the last 2. And I'm trying to move to the next slide. But yeah, continuous improvement, the 5th principle. And that's a funny one, because what we say, and that's not something we came up with as the DASA editorial board, but in the DevOps community, if it hurts, do it more often. I mean, you want to experiment a lot, you want to fail fast, and you want to learn and improve on that. So all the people that said at the beginning, it's about implementing continuous improvement, that's a good way to start with DevOps, then you're completely right. And probably our 5th principle will really fit with your answer on our poll question. So you've got these autonomous teams, they've got their end-to-end responsibility, they like to innovate, and then you need to drive them, and they drive themselves. Teams need to focus on experimentation, minimizing waste, optimizing for speed, cost, reliability, resilience, and that's not something that you're going to do in a big bang. It's not something that you will do once, get it right, and you're done. You need to keep innovating, keep improving, and that's what the 5th principle is all about. And again, in a company, this takes courage, because what you're basically telling to people is, it's okay if you fail, it's okay if you make mistakes, but you need to learn from that. And that's a whole different way of collaborating with each other. If you're the leader or the manager, then it's a whole different way of guiding your people. It's not about from a command point of view, but it's mission command. It's giving the teams the room and the responsibility to experiment, to make mistakes, and to learn from that. So anyone with a strong background like me in Lean and Lean IT will recognize this immediately. And if you look at improvements, then we come to the 6th principle. Then, of course, one of the things you need to do is automate. And we say automate everything you can. Enhance quality, maximize flow. Because if you look at all the waste going on in IT organizations and IT processes, then automation is a great way to help you get rid of bottlenecks and trouble spots. But you don't just automate for the automation. That's why we put it at the end. I mean, you need the customer-centric focus, you need the continuous improvement, you need to be able to identify your bottlenecks within the process, and when you do, then you know where to automate. And of course, there is a whole community and a whole set of tools available for you to help you with that. And why should you automate? Because automation is a great way to provide better quality. And it's not quality only in the speed of delivery of new functionality, but also in the reliability and the resilience of your IT services. And the way we sometimes talk about DevOps within DASA is we say it's the search for ultimate flow of IT value to customers. And of course, automation can really help you with that. So it creates predictability, it helps you standardize your output, diminish variation that you don't want. And within our fundamentals course, I think the biggest topic that we have is about automation, because it's such a rich and fun and interesting area to look at. So basically, those are the 6 principles. So if you want to explain to somebody else what is DevOps, why should we do DevOps? Well, what is DevOps? Take these 6 principles, explain it to them, And then, well, I'm not saying that they will be able to completely comprehend what DevOps is all about, but you will have laid a very good foundation for them. And essentially, DevOps will create a new breed of IT organizations. To survive the digital transformation, the digital disruptiveness that's going all around us, then you need DevOps. You need a very new way of collaboration, and it's all about collaboration. And we say stupid, and that's a reference to Bill Clinton in the US elections many years ago when he was asked, what's this all about? And he said, it's all about the economy. That's it. And it's about improving speed to market, breaking down silos, eliminating waste, being innovative and creative, and about resource and cost reduction, increase employee engagement and job satisfaction. And that's a really interesting thing, because if you look at the DevOps movement, in my opinion, one of the key triggers to kick it all off was the job satisfaction. You don't want to be an engineer in operations, spending all your weekends within a data center or behind a monitor. You want to be able to deliver and deploy new stuff during a normal work hours. And DevOps, if you do it right, certainly helps in reaching that goal. And it's about continuous integration and continuous delivery and continuous monitoring and all those things that DevOps nowadays we call continuous. So I see that we reached the end of our 30 minutes, and I really hope that this short but hopefully deep enough dive into the DevOps principles behind our DASA courses and the skills and knowledge areas we defined help you to pinpoint a bit more what we think DevOps is all about. And of course, these principles are underlying of all the training courses and all the stuff we're developing right now and hopefully bring out to you in the near future.
Well,
so, Deborah.
Yes, thank you for that.
That was a quick rundown of those 6 principles of us.
Yes, and we enjoyed it greatly. I think it's very powerful for our audience to really understand about our DevOps principles and how they work. What I'd like to do now is we have about 3 minutes left, so I won't take a lot of time. I'd just like to talk, one question for you that I think has come in is, are these principles made up from DASA, or are they well known within the DevOps community?
Oh, yeah. I don't think we would dare to come up with something completely different than the DevOps community. Mm-hmm. And so the answer is no, we did not make them up. We sort of looked at all the stuff the DevOps community is putting out and combined them in these 6 principles. And that way of working is, I think, underlying within the DNA of DASA. I mean, it should be a open platform, and anyone that likes to contribute to our content is invited to do so. So we're not about making stuff up ourselves. It's about taking all the really good stuff that's out there and combine it into something even better.
Excellent. And one last question before I wrap it up with our session today is the DevOps Fundamentals course, is it targeted at IT operations, developers, or can other people join? Can ITIL experts join, or process owners, or product owners? I mean, who is it targeted at?
I think all the roles you mentioned and probably a whole lot more. I mean, the fundamentals is for anybody with a certain involvement with IT. Even if you're not maybe going to be working in such a team doing and living up to all the principles you just heard me talk about. But let's say you're a ITIL process manager about changes. Then it's very good to get a good understanding of this DevOps movement and the implications to IT. And that will really help you define your role in such an organization and know how to help those autonomous teams I was talking about with their change management. So I think it's for everybody. Maybe as an example, a couple of weeks ago I did a training on a colleague of mine on ITIL. and he mentioned that there was almost no one from IT in that training, but a lot of other people who really needed to have a basic understanding of what these IT processes are all about. Well, the same goes maybe for the DevOps fundamentals. I mean, I really suggest that all IT engineers and IT people, whether from dev or ops or Q&A, architects would join. But anyone in surrounding IT organization, more than welcome. I think it will be very valuable to do a DevOps fundamental training course,
Okay.
even for somebody not in IT.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for those answers. And again, thank you for a very detailed and understandable presentation of the DevOps principles. I just have one more slide for our audience today. I just want you to know that part of what we want to do for the community is continually provide sessions like we have today. So you're going to be hearing, we have sessions set up with if you're interested in joining DASA, how you can become a member. We have our DASA Master Series that we're going to be doing this month about the DASA competence model. And there's also some DASA fundamental train-the-trainer sessions that are happening. If you want more information, you can simply go to our website, www.devopsagileskills.org. So with that, on behalf of both Frederick and myself, I just want to thank you for your time today. At the end of this webinar, there'll be a short survey, and we would greatly appreciate it if you could just take a second and fill it out, because what your thinking matters to us, and we really would appreciate your input. So we wish you a great rest of your day. Frederick, thank you once again, and everyone, we hope to hear from you and see you again in our DevOps journey. And I certainly hope that you can join us and join the movement as we go out there to promote a universal competence model for DevOps Agile skills. Thanks, everybody. Bye for now.